Let's call to order and do a roll call. Sarah?
Okay. Director Daniels. She will be absent today. Director Edwards.
Here.
Director Riley.
Here.
Director Paul.
Here.
Director Gawain. Vice Chair Lindor.
Here.
And Chair Oglesby has not yet arrived.
All right, thank you. Shall we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Let's begin. The Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We all learned that same cadence in school, didn't we? We know exactly where to pause. Any additions or corrections to the agenda?
There will be minor ones as we go, nothing major, except for an exhibit. Stephanie, did that get into the?
Yeah.
packets?
It's
Yeah,
in the red folder.
so you have it in the
Okay,
folder.
perfect. So anyone that wishes to address the board on the consent calendar? Oral communications?
Yes, oral communication. Let me check if I have any.
It's all blowing in the wind.
Are we still in oral communication?
Yes. Go ahead.
Thank you. I got a check from your finance man, and I appreciate that. And I'm glad to see that the checks are going out for the refund to all the property owners. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.
Save this stand.
Anyone else?
Yes, I have Susan Schiavone. Susan, when you're ready?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, good evening, Chair and Board and staff. I'm bringing up a topic which is kind of strange, but we had an advertisement in the paper that had a lovely big fish on the front of it saying proof, healthy steelhead, healthy Carmel River, and saying today, largely due to state regs, etc., the watershed has transformed into a healthy ecosystem and the thriving steelhead population proves it. Then we have the downer ad that came out from the Carmel River Steelhead Organization that starts with the headline, Steelhead are declining. Now that's the truth. So there are two really stark presentations about the condition of the steelhead at the Carmel River. And I'm just wondering, for public optics, how would you respond to this? And what can we tell the public in terms of when they see these two kind of opposing views, how to interpret all this? That's my question and comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have another raised hand. Anna Thompson.
Anna?
Anna, when you're ready?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I have the same question that the prior speaker, Susan, mentioned. I find it that it's really, I don't know what the intent of that article is, other than discredit all the good work that you guys have been doing. So I appreciate a response to that and how we're going to stop them from giving those lies. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anna, anybody else?
I see no other raised hands.
All right, shall we move on to the consent calendar? Is there anybody that would like to pull any of the items for comment?
I'd like to pull item 3 for a question.
All right. Anybody else? All right, so do we have a motion to accept the consent calendar with items 1 and 2? We're pulling item 3 for comment.
I shall move.
Second?
Second,
Okay,
give it over to the lady she got in there.
any questions? Yeah. No? Shall we
Any public comment on the consent calendar? Thank you, George.
I see no raised hands.
Thank you. So shall we take a vote? Do we do it by roll call, Sarah? Should we do it just
With the
by?
consent calendar, you can just do it by voice vote.
So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, it's carried. All right, next item, item number 4, general managers report. Item 3, sorry. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, my question is on page 19. It was the chart showing the location of various sentinel wells or test wells or whatever we call the intrusion monitoring wells.
Mhm.
But the legend was so tightly small that I couldn't read, and I was wondering if you could have just helped me identify the red line. What was the purpose of the red line? And then the little red squares, what did they intend to indicate? And I just know the little red dots are monitor wells. But what does the red line suggest? And then what do the squares represent?
Go ahead, John Lear.
Yeah,
Okay,
Jonathan?
yes, thank you. Good evening, Director Riley. This red line is representing just the connectivity of the wells and kind of the line along the coastline that we're attempting to monitor. What's missing out of the excerpts that I included in my staff note was there's an actual cross section that runs along this line of the geology of this whole area. So that's actually a cross sectional line, and I didn't include the cross section.
And then the red squares?
The red squares are monitor wells that the district owns and has put in. They were put in the mid 90s. They're called the Fort Ord wells. The district in the mid 90s, Fort Ord was closing, and it was the first time the district was actually able to get out onto the Army land. And so we had no information. And so there was a project over probably 3 years, if I remember the tech memos correctly, where the district went out and drilled these series of monitor wells.
That's all I wanted to know. Thank you very much. I move approval of item 3.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now can we move on to
Absolutely.
general managers report?
While Sarah is pulling up the report, I can assure you that I'm not going to make you do math this month like we did last month on sunk costs on the desalination plant, but we're just going to focus on supply and demand. All right. And next page, please. So this is the production from all sources after 5 months of the water year. A couple of things to point out is even though the rains are pretty much over at this point, we did do 55 acre
if you have an in-ground irrigation system, check it before spring. Right now is actually the great time since we're at 85 degrees today out in the valley. Wow. Great time to check your irrigation system. Make sure you don't have any leaks. Turn it on. Look for emitters that may have popped off, and so you may have a little waterfall going off. Make sure those are fixed. Also check your garden hose for leaks and its connection to the spigot. All of those things are fairly easy to fix. You may need to replace your hose after the winter, but outdoor leaks can be easily corrected. And if you're still having problems, it may be time to replace those leaking fixtures. And if you do, look for water sense labeled appliances for faucets, toilets, and shower heads, and take advantage, of course, of our rebate program. And you can find all that information at MontereyWaterInfo.org. And thank you for listening.
I think Stephanie stayed there. I think while Stephanie is here, let's start with any questions for Stephanie. Board members?
Vice Chair Lindor, I just want to let you know that the meeting is back up.
Thank you.
Just one question, Stephanie.
Yes.
I think Cal-Am moved their offices. Did they not? Are they no longer in PG?
No, they're still in PG, but I think they may have closed their customer service open window. So they're still taking payments online or taking payments in a kiosk at their office. I'm not sure if you have access to people, so. And I don't know an answer to that question, but I'll find out.
Yeah, they haven't moved yet. They'll be moving in about a year. They've got
Oh, that's that far away.
they bought a property in Ryan Ranch, and they have to do build out to reconfigure the space.
And I have a
They
question.
got downsize, you know?
How is this information getting out to the public?
We do have this information on our MontereyWaterInfo.org website. And again, that was on the presentation on the last slide. That website is constantly updated. It's a joint website with California American Water. And it has all the information about our rebate programs and all other goodies that we have of it.
And any chance of doing an email blast? I know we're in the midst of the week.
I'm sure we can probably find a way to do that.
Yeah,
Yes.
because,
Appreciate that.
yeah,
Good, Chair.
excellent. Any public comments for Stephanie or questions?
Vice Chair Lindor, I see no raised hands.
Perfect. So thank you, Stephanie. Let's move to any questions for the general manager's report. Karen, I think you said you had a few.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Dave, my question is about ASR, and you said that we left some water on the tank. It sounded like considerable amount of water on the tank.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Do you know the reason?
We've not had access to injection at wells number 3 and 4 for several years now. 3 had been converted to primarily a production well. When we took ASR well number 1 away as a production source, Cal-Am converted ASR well number 4 to a production only well, but then hasn't been producing from it. So it should probably go back to being an injection well or an injection and extraction well. But it's being underutilized right now. There's the thing called a Baskey valve at the bottom. And it was removed, so right now it cannot function on an injection mode, despite the fact that it's not operating in production mode.
Exactly.
Treatment and convert it back to an injection well.
Sounds like they're not making the best use of the infrastructure that's already there.
Yeah.
Well, that's inefficient.
Alvin?
Cost ratepayers.
Thank you. Is there any way we can send a letter over to Cal-Am about that river? Now, we done went year after year after year, and I keep hearing, are they gonna do better? They're gonna do better.
Well, they have done better. The issue that I think they were a little less well prepared for is the expansion of the Pure Water Monterey project. And so they got inundated with water in the winter. They have limited extraction capacity. And so they've been unable to fully access the river because we've been diverting for ASR. So they're serving local demands in Carmel Valley from the river. When they to our own account and have to Cal-Am, and that'll force more extraction back to the river as a source. So I think that one, you know, it's an operating issue and it's a capacity issue. But I wouldn't say that we're perilously at risk of,
Well, you need to,
but you know, we have 7 months left, so.
okay. You need to tell them that we're looking at it. And you give them good excuses, but you know, that ain't hitting it for me. For me, it ain't hitting. And it's gonna come back up again at the end. And I hope our attorney is ready to move on it. And I hope you be ready to move on it. So, okay.
Another question?
If I may, through
Sure.
the chair, thank you. You said earlier, it's better for the health of the river to take more water before sun.
So,
Because their wells aren't up, is that right? Aren't operating?
so you know, they pay for that water, so they want to sell that water. There's always going to be that issue. And so you're trying to, you know, the electric utilities have a least cost kind of mantra about trying to use the lowest cost resources first. It's been talked about in various places on the desal plant and so forth, but there's no hard and fast law. So there's a revenue recognition issue going on as well.
Okay, thank you.
Alvin, did you have a question? Mary Ann?
Marianne?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. On your page here, you got 14,936. Is that the total storage that we got in the ground, we haven't used? Is that a year or 2 years?
No, that's, so the total storage we have is at the top number, that 8214. And that's off by 100 because there's been a digit. The pure out of Monterey should be 2353. And so
Okay.
it says 2253, but so we have 8,300 in the ground. That is beyond just what we expect each plant or each supply source to produce on a kind of a real-time basis during the year. And so when you count that 8,000 in storage and what we expect to receive or is available via water right from the river, via adjudication or adjudicated right from the Seaside Basin, or via our contract from Pure Water Monterey, the difference is that real-time water that's being produced for the next 7 months.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other board questions? Sarah, we're up and running.
We are having issues with, we believe, the PC that's in the room.
Okay,
So it's causing issues with the cameras and running the Zoom. So
yeah, so,
it's intermittent, but I believe we're back up. That's what my Zoom people are saying.
okay, are there any public comments?
I see no raised hands. I believe Melody was probably wanting to let us know that she couldn't hear the meeting.
Excellent. So we can move on to Mr. Council. You have a report for us.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair. So the report is written on page 23 of your packet, and it'll be a brief report because there hasn't been a lot of changes. For the first case, this is the district versus Cal-Am. This is the eminent domain effort. There was a case management conference on February 24th, 2026, where Judge Rivermonte set a bench trial to begin in Department 14 on October 19th. And that trial will focus solely on the LAFCO issues. And the estimated trial length is about 2 to 4 days. A trial management conference has been set for October 16th in Department 14th at 10 a.m. Going down to the second case, this is the district versus LAFCO. Closing reply briefs by LAFCO and Cal-Am, responding to the district's closing briefs that were filed in November, were due on March 6th. And pardon, I was out of the office last week, so I don't know what has come through yet, but I'll be sure to provide a report on that next month. Going to the next case, this is the City District et al. Versus the Coastal Commission and Cal-Am. Appellants Joint Counsel Peter Pierce of Richards, Watson, Gershon in San Francisco filed the opening brief on February 12th, and respondents then filed their briefs at the end of February. So we're now waiting for that trial. Shifting down to the PUC, the general rate case, the district did submit formal testimony on February 6th. A mediation session was held on February 23rd with a check-in session calendared for March 16th and April 3rd. Cal-Am has until March 24th to submit its rebuttal testimony, but there's been no reportable movement on that case. Going to the acquisition and rulemaking case, this is the 22-04003. We're still awaiting a proposed decision on that one. At the February 26th commission meeting, they did enter an order extending the deadline to issue that decision to July 31st of this year. Shifting to the State Water Resources Control Board case, this is the suit for attorney's fees. All briefs by the district, Callium, and the Sierra Club have been filed, and a hearing on this motion is set for March 26th before Judge Charles F. Adams in Department 7 in San Jose. That concludes my litigation report at this time.
Any questions from the board? No, none? Seeing there's none, are there any public comments?
I see no raised hands.
All right, thank you, Mr. Laredo. Director's reports. Anybody have anything to say, George?
The Legal Owners had a lunch meeting this week on Wednesday. And I was on the program, I was one of the panelists presenting on water. And there was a huge turnout and I had fun presenting. But Janet Brennan presented and Gail Morton also presented from Marina Coast Water District. Janet Brennan is chair, I guess, of the SIGMA, the Salinas Valley Basin GSA organization. But she didn't talk about that. She didn't talk about the GSA going the issues and the programs and the priorities. But I was prepared, so I had my opinions about a number of things and facts, and I added both to that process. Anyway, it was a huge turnout for the league. They had over 70 people, as we understand.
Yeah.
That they were aware of, but it's also a walk-in, and you don't have to check in and so on. So we don't know exactly how many people. But it was one of the largest turnouts we had. So what we gathered from that is that the public is still very interested in water issues, and they're hungry for information. I mean, that's kind of my interpretation, but most people were talking that way afterwards.
Yeah,
It was good. It was a good turnout.
I also attended that, and as one of the newer members of it, Marianne, did I see that you were there as well? Yes, it was so informative.
Yes.
Gail Morton presented an excellent presentation, gave me so many details that I was like, oh, that's how that connects. And to find out there's 23 agencies that touch our water from federal all the way down to local. It was pretty impressive. And then George gave a presentation where we learned new legal terms in his presentation. What was one of them? Screwed is a legal term. But it was very informative for me. I enjoyed myself immensely, and you're absolutely right. I would say there was close to 100 people there, maybe more. And to see how they, and to talk to them at our table in line, waiting for the luncheon. Everybody's very interested in water on this peninsula, and they're happy to see that we're actually doing something. So that was a good outreach opportunity as well as informative opportunity. Marianne?
Similar to what you said, and people should know that video will be available on the league's website.
There you go.
Soon.
Excellent.
This week, should be this week.
Good.
Mayor, I'd like to ask, for those of you who are there, what were the subjects that people were most interested in, like that they asked questions about, that came up the most often? What aspects?
Rates was a question at my table. Water availability, when was the CDO going to be lifted so that they could get permits and meters and that sort of thing. So those were the primary questions at my table. I was at the newbie table, the guest table. So everybody there was fairly new to the League of Women Voters. But it was, I sat at a table with a bunch of activists that are very involved in water. Names for the future. Anybody else?
Well, some of the audience questions were about how are we progressing on the latent powers issue. The one you mentioned about the CDO lifting the moratorium, and then on the buying Callium. Those were kind of the three categories I thought. There were a few questions on the valley issues, I thought. But you know, it's more of a peninsula crowd, so I think that was understandable.
Thank you.
All right. Item number, well, Public hearing, it says here, public comments will be received. Any public comments? Ah, here we go.
Ready for this one?
We're ready.
All right, so I think it looked more daunting than it might actually have been, hopefully, but. This is the first reading of ordinance number 201, amending a bunch of different rules. Anyway, I'm gonna walk you through and we'll kind of talk about what's changed with this ordinance versus other ones that we've had in the past. Sarah, are we good? Yeah. So draft ordinance number 201 is the first of several ordinances that the board will be dealing with over the next year. It clarifies and updates a number of district rules and regulations supporting the board's mid-level strategic goal number 6, which is to update and prioritize district rules and regulations. Most of the proposed amendments that are in this ordinance five and just carry these to a different ordinance. So don't want to spend time discussing those today. And I also don't want to spend time discussing Rule 142, which is the water efficiency requirements, where this ordinance proposes doing a requirement for high efficiency dishwashers and washing machines. And I'd like to postpone that for a future discussion. So those three things we're going to just kind of ignore, but I will walk you through this and you'll understand as we go through. So Rule 25.5 amendments. First of all, there are some amendments to Rule 11, which are in the ordinance. Those are definitional changes. There is also an amendment to Rule 10, which responds to the fact that we've got rules listed that were deleted years ago or deleted through time. They still take up space. We'd like to get rid of that and bring them all into Rule 10 as just a list of when those rules got deleted so that we free up those rules for future use. So those are real simple ones. The amendments to Rule 25.5. Again, I'm going to leave Rule 4 intact for this ordinance. But we are making changes to Rule 25.5D. And that has to do with the redevelopment project water credit. Those credits are all already expired, so there's no reason to have that rule in Rule 25.5. So we're deleting that. I'd also like to sunset the high efficiency toilet credit, which is the 1.28 gallon per flush credit. This was previously allowed as a documented credit. And so I'd like to continue to allow people who have a documented credit to use this for a permit for the next 12 months. But going forward in time, we're not going to document credit for that any longer. The state of California required 1.28 gallon toilets for sale and installation in the state as of January 1st, 2016. And they actually had a 2-year phase in of that requirement, but this credit goes back to 2007. And so it makes no sense for us right now to be giving credit for something that is a requirement in the state. And so I do want to delete that. There are a number of small clarifications in Rule 25.5, and if anybody has questions about those, I'm happy to respond to those when we get to the questions. So the amendments to Rule 33, which is the allocations, we are proposing that projects subject to approval by the Division of the State Architect qualify for the district reserve allocation. Those projects are all not subject to local permitting by our jurisdictions. And so it seems to me that that makes sense. I think water demand was very supportive of allowing the district reserve to be used for these projects. They include K-12 public schools, community colleges, state essential service buildings, state funded facilities. And then I'm adding in there that employee housing undertaken on public school district sites would be included. And then there's a caveat that if they want to request more than 10 acre feet for a site, it would have to come back to the board for board approval of any project. Otherwise, it would be done ministerial. So that is that proposal. The rebate amendments, we're proposing to remove the high efficiency toilet, again, the same reason as 25.5. Lower the rebates for the pint urinal and high efficiency, ultra high efficiency toilets. Just to drop those a little bit, they were very aggressive or are very aggressive right now. The ultra high efficiency toilets are purchased for about what we're currently, we currently have a rebate for. So I'm just kind of substituting what we were doing for the high efficiency toilet and putting the ultra high efficiency toilet at that same level. Removing the zero consumption urinal. We just, don't see them. They require maintenance. So it just seems like that one should go. The increasing the rebate for smart flow meters that have a system shut off. And this is big. Right now we have a very popular rebate for the smart flow meters, which are the ones that attach to your water system and tell you if you have a leak. But beyond that, there are ones that actually shut off the water to your house. And those smart flow meters are considerably more expensive than just the let you know that there's a leak in the house. And so the proposal is to increase that up to a $500 rebate. And then delete the X-ray film processor retrofit rebate, which I have to say we've never issued one. It's a great idea, but now everybody's doing digital. So it really doesn't make sense. They don't use water for film processing. And these items were discussed at a meeting with CalAm reps. And anyway, they were supportive of making these changes to the rebate program. And then the ordinance also has several clarification amendments in that rule. Then moving to Rule 142, I'm gonna, like I said, pull this out of this ordinance, bring it back. Probably next month, you'll see some changes to this rule, but I think we need discussion with Water Demand Committee before we bring it forward. So then amendments to Rules 160 and Rules 163 to 165. These amendments incorporate existing water supply sources identified and reviewed so that they can be consistent with our new urban water management plan that you'll be seeing at, I believe, our next meeting. And also with the proposed modifications that we've submitted to the State Water Board for the cease and desist order. Then Rule 167 is proposed to be deleted in its entirety, and all of that rule is are definitions that can be found in Rule 11. I think originally we put them in there thinking that it would be printed out as a standalone rule, but I think it makes more sense to just refer to Rule 11 on this. So the recommendation this evening is to remove Rule 142 amendments and that the board should conduct a public hearing before moving ordinance number 201 to second reading. And finally, direct staff to share this ordinance with our technical advisory committee prior to next reading. And if there are any comments, we can bring those back and share those with you at that time. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
George?
Couple of questions. The Rule 11 with the definitions, is that coming back to us?
No, Rule 11 is moving forward at this time.
Okay, I just saw the elimination page, but I didn't see the replacement page. Is it still in there somewhere?
Rule 11 is in the actual ordinance. All right, let me see.
That's at page 32.
No, I understand.
Rule 11 is fine.
Director Riley, your Rule 167
Yes,
are definitions,
yes.
and they are being completely deleted because they are also in Rule 11. And we're not changing any of those definitions in Rule 11. We're just deleting Rule 167, which is a duplicate.
Okay, so Rule 11 is in here and I just kind of ran right by it.
No, the whole rule is in our rules and regs because it's a very long rule.
Okay, that's why I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Another second question is, Rule 33.
Mhm.
And I'm a little curious about the 10 acre feet, that's at the discretion of the general manager. Well, what does 10 represent? I mean, I did a quick math on 5 homes per acre foot, so that's 50 homes. That seemed like a pretty substantial project to me, and I
It would
wonder,
be, yeah.
and I wonder if it ought to be a lower amount, and then you're just reporting back to us at some lower number. It seemed to me we ought to be aware of when substantial projects get some kind of allocation going forward, and that this is the process that we can use.
I would say this is at your discretion. I had 20 once, I had 5, and I'll pick 10. So no, you tell me what you'd like and we can do that.
Well, I'd just like to have general manager respond to the question.
Yeah, well, so we intentionally didn't create an allocation like we did for the Department of Defense. So we didn't identify these organizations who are subject to the state architect. It's all the unified school districts. It's the community college district. And it's a few other types of entities that Stephanie named earlier. And so rather than create an allocation like we did with the city of Carmel, here's how much we're allocating. City of Monterey, here's how much we're allocating. We're just going to leave it in the district reserve, subject to them coming through the district because they're not coming through their various jurisdictions for a building permit. So that building permit trigger doesn't exist for them. And so we just picked a number, 20, 10, or 5, just to represent a a pool of available water to allocate, but we've not been approached with any projects, but we're trying to discourage these members of our community from going straight to the state architect and ignoring our rules and regs. So we want them in under the tent. But yeah, it can be a lower number. It's, you know, if somebody came to us with a large scale project, we could just take it to the board.
Right. So 5 would be good.
Would be.
Well, I don't know, you know, it's just throwing a dart, it seemed to me,
Yeah.
but you know, I would pick 5, it's just, it was in my mind about picking 5, which is a little slower. Mainly it's to keep the board informed of what's
Yeah.
happening.
Mhm.
It's not so much approval and the water's available and all that. So that's, well, I would just suggest to put 5 in there. And, but you still report back periodically on what's happening, because that's,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And it's in your monthly reports also. But I'm very happy with 5. Like I said, I just picked a number. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, Alvin?
This didn't go through water demand. Did it?
This did not go through water demand.
Okay,
Like I said, there are many changes. The board has put this as a priority as one of your strategic goals. These are actually some of the easy changes that we were trying to pull through quickly. There are literally many changes water demand will have to look at because they're policy questions. And these changes are for the most part not policy questions.
okay, my next question is, are you gonna take this out to my realtors out there? You got changes like this, they should be informed of the
Absolutely.
changes, you know?
Yeah.
I like to see that done prior to you coming to us, so they can get theirs out of the way. And we can sit up here and discuss if it should be like that.
Yeah, and I don't think that the proposed changes today should not have a significant impact on the realtors and sale of properties. But as I mentioned, the recommendation tonight is to send this out for the technical advisory committee to review, and I will add the realtors in or MCAR in as part
Well,
of.
you add whoever you think gonna be in here. You know, I sort of miss them. Because they used to be in here screaming and hollering this and that. Now they don't even show up. But I know we got Mr. Riley here and he will keep them informed.
Yes, he does.
So I just don't want us to forget about them because they're out there.
No, and I think, again, these changes, in my opinion, were more clarifying rules than they were doing any kind of change that would have an impact.
And I
agree.
Okay, and I like for it to go through water demand.
Yes.
Don't skip it because that's a meeting that we televise or we got a record of.
Yep.
And we can point them, hey, we talked about this in water demand. We got too much of a habit now of forgetting about the committees and let's take it to the board. Because I'm about to lead the board and I want to say, oh, we don't need the committees.
We do need the committees.
Well, thank you for saying that.
Policy direction is definitely needed as we move forward.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to thank you for taking 108 pages of the draft stuff and disseminating the information in a 10-page PowerPoint. Thank you. Thank you for that. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Just want to preface this by saying I was so proud of myself by working through a lot of these regulations, very new to me, and then like it all fell apart. When you modified Exhibit D for me tonight, okay? So got the high efficiency toilet and then things kind of fell apart. Did you say that you were going to
This will come back, yes.
it'll come back?
So the
Or
proposal
now
for
we're
this
just
ordinance
looking at this,
is just removing that one.
further changes are likely on the
Yes.
horizon.
Yes.
Okay.
Save your notes, please.
All right, any other comments?
I just want to say, add my thanks, a lot of work. It's
Yeah.
not, and you know, it's not easy.
Thank you, Stephanie.
It just it just has to be done and a lot, I mean, it must be a lot of work and not the most fun, but thank you.
Yeah, and you'll see 2 or 3 of these this year.
Right, so there's a recommendation that the board will consider the first reading.
Right.
Vice Chair, you do have to open up the public hearing.
Sorry, we do need to open the public hearing on this. Any other comments?
Vice Chair Lindor, I see no raised hands.
Anybody in our peanut gallery? No?
Andy Myrick has his hand up. If we have a Zoom connection.
Will there be a need for a third reading because of the changes?
No.
You talked about?
Yeah, since this is first reading, we're just.
Andy, when you're ready, you may address the board.
Yeah, hi, I guess I have a question. So thank you for clarifying that 142 is going to be pushed off to a little bit later. I was wondering though, because table 1 says that we'd be eliminating from the water form the 1.6 gallon per flush at 1.8 fixture units. And so that would default to 1.3 fixture units for everyone's existing fixtures. I'm wondering, is that a part of this particular action, or is that going to be deferred to a later date?
No, that is part of this action.
Okay. And will we be able to sorry for speaking again. Will we be able to come back to that table 1? Because I have a couple of potential suggestions depending on what happens with Rule 142.
Yeah, 142 will come back to the board in a separate ordinance. And so, yes, we'll take public comment on that. And not only that, Andy, but I will be sending this out for comments by the Technical Advisory Committee. So if you have comments, please provide those.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Any other public comments?
I see no other raised hands.
All right, now we can,
Madam Chair, at this time, I'd recommend you close the public hearing.
thank you very much, Michael. So the public hearing is closed.
And then just to answer Director Paul's question directly, the way an ordinance gets approved, you have your first reading, it has to go through the process and come back for a second reading. There is no limit on how many times you can rehear it on a second reading, but it has to be adopted. It can't be adopted on a first reading is the answer.
Got it.
So the motion would be to approve the first reading and move to the second reading, or what's the motion?
Yeah, the recommended motion would be to approve the first reading as amended, which would be removing Rule 142 and those other little tweaks that were brought up. And then direct staff to bring the draft ordinance to the TAC prior to the second reading.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second, anybody? Mary Ann?
Yes.
All right, all in favor?
So roll call votes required.
Sarah?
Director Edwards,
Approval.
Director Riley,
Aye.
Director Paul,
Aye.
Director Goink,
Aye.
Vice Chair Lindor.
Aye.
First reading is approved 5-0.
All right. Number 9, the 2025 annual report.
Thank you. This is beginning on page 211 of your packet. And I think the graphics have come together quite nicely.
203.
203.
Pardon me?
203.
Page 203.
203. Huh, it says 207 in my packet. All right.
It'll be fast.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I need to, but let's try it anyway.
I can pull the exhibit up if you like.
Yeah, that'd be fine. I've already been approached by a director who wants to spend a little more time on editing. We came in here prepared. You can see the recommendation is to approve subject to insubstantial edits, which would be clarifications, tense, rules of speaking to real humans rather than insiders, I guess would be an example, that type of thing. So I've asked Phil Wellman of Wellman Ad to send the current version in an editable format to Director Paul and any other director who wants to get in some red line edits.
I have a few suggestions too,
Yep.
which I'm willing to hand out to somebody. As I say them.
I'll take them.
Oh, okay, well, you want me to mention them? I don't know whether you were gonna mention yours. There's the substantive ones. I thought that the rebate, the reasons for the impact of the rebates ought to be a little more specific here. You describe what they do, but it's allowed a continued conservation program that doesn't change. I mean, because these are permanent fixture changes. Anyway, that was one thing. And that's basically it. I wanted to complete a sentence differently in another spot. But anyway, I can give these to you.
Great.
Okay.
So, but I'll just say for the board that the nature of the edits that I'd like to propose are just, it's not really substantive. It's just correcting some mistakes, like on page 207, the big headline at the top, it says district asked state to drop restrictions, and we have two twos. And there's a grammatical error on the next headline on that same page. So there's a few things like that, and then the rest would be just because it's all we have to write it. I mean, if we're going to put this in the weekly, right? We're going to publish it in the weekly and have it. That means we want it to be easily understandable to a general audience, right? A general audience of people can read. I think it fell short of that, and I am willing to just suggest some edits to try and make it just more understandable. People don't know all the specific details that our staff knows.
And if I might offer a readable suggestion also, is that we understand the acronyms and we know what an acre foot is. Well, yeah, we're supposed to know what an acre foot is. The public is going to, they're going to look at the, 371 AF and say, what is that? How much is that? What is, am I using too much? Am I using too little? Because let's face it, the public generally translates into gallons. They don't translate into acre feet.
Now that's a good example of what, like the first time we use an acronym, we should spell it out, and that's done in some cases, but not all cases here.
Yeah, and you can even say an acre foot equals approximately this many gallons, something like that.
Yeah, good.
I like it. I think this is good information to get out there. I would like it to see it projected towards the public that doesn't get all of the inside references that we do.
Yeah, and I think as things got reordered, because to your point, we usually do use the whole term and then define the acronym, but if you move things around, it
sometimes it
got out of sync. Yep.
Okay. Just a little editing.
The graphics are good. I like it. When is this supposed to go into the weekly?
We're working on that with Eric Cushman. I think it'll probably be the second or third week.
April?
April.
Through the chair, are we gonna have a few extra copies laying around that we might can send out to the libraries? People might pick them up. I will say send them to the city councils, but they would probably trash them. But to the libraries or
we've got
other buildings.
We're going to have a couple hundred of spares.
Thank you.
We can also bring to
because I like to read a spare.
So forth.
Look at it.
Excellent.
Good job.
Anything else? Any board comments? Any public comments?
No, but we'd be seeking, I think, the recommendation to approve it, subject to the edits of Director Riley and Director Paul.
Is there any raised hands?
I see no raised hands.
Right.
If we get our edits to Phil Wellman by the end of this week, is that sufficient time?
Should be, yeah.
Okay.
So could you amend that to be subject to edits of board members? Because I'd like to
Yeah.
participate.
Okay, great. Yeah.
All right, is there a motion?
I move adoption subject to some suggested edits or consideration of suggested edits by board members.
Second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. It's any opposed? I suppose I should ask that. Okay, it is carried. All right, item number 10, adoption of the April through June quarterly water supply strategy and budget. John, I believe you're on.
Yes, good evening again, board. This will be item 10, your public hearing on the quarterly water budget.
One second, John.
Thank you, Sarah. I do have to say that there was a point in the meeting where you could have heard me, but I couldn't have heard you, and that might have been the best setup to give a presentation because Dave would have had to clean up all my ambiguities. So, okay, here we go. Public hearing item 10. This again is we meet quarterly and talk with California American Water, the fisheries groups, the water rights groups from the state, and as well as us, talk about the system, talk about the rules that we need to have, talk about how to comply with those, and talk about trying to get to the goals that the board has given us, recognizing the rivers becoming an issue or watching that as well in this. And so you'll see that as we go through this, and this will be April through June of 2026. And then just to remind everybody, the district is the CEQA agency for the Carmel Valley Alluvial Aquifer. So we're bringing this to the board for your adoption. You adopt it, and then the district then files a notice of noncompliance through CEQA with the county. So that's what we're doing tonight. So we can move to the next. These are all of the different orders that have been put on the river since the early 90s through the recent 2016 order. So we've considered all of these, as well as some of the Rule 160 targets, which, as you guys just talked about earlier in this meeting, is somewhat of a moving thing. So the quarterly water budget will have to react to the resetting up of the Rule 160. So we've had a slightly above average water year, a strange water year to me, where a lot of rain came kind of early, and then we're setting up for a major heat wave, as everyone's probably heard. And so I don't know if we have a lot of hope for more rains. With the amount of rain that we've got, we probably have one more week of injection. As Dave said earlier, we've been able to do about 13 acre-feet a day. So we plan to continue on with that, and probably no more ASR with the long-term forecast that we get from NOAA, but I'll show you that in a second. Same thing for table 13 diversions. We're going to fall out of our window in about a week. We always estimate about 3.25 acre-feet per day. As Dave said earlier too, that's the demand in the valley in Carmel that this water right is set up for. So anytime you get the flow requirements, you're allowed to divert directly and feed it to that demand. And so that's what we use. But you'll see in the water budget, we're not really planning for that either because of the lower than normal and hotter temperatures. We'll continue to recover. CalAm plans to recover 175, 390, and 425 of Pure Water Monterey in April to June. We had the Pure Water Monterey expansion come online. We are still kind of testing that, getting it up and running, understanding how much we're going to get. This is how much water CalAm has said they want to purchased from us over this quarter. And so the rest of it, as we're bringing it online and injecting it, will go into the operational reserve. That's evolving as we understand it. We have pretty good error bars on it, but it's hard to put like an exact number on that as we're standing this project up. So that's kind of what Pure Water Monterey will be doing over this next quarter. So we can go to the next slide. We went in with the idea that we are going to try to do all the seaside coastal sub areas. As we talked about, there's a little bit of revenue recognition. The totals are pretty low for the assumed recovery going forward. We assume that we're going to probably shut off ASR. And we met March 5th. And I'm sorry, it says 2025, but that's 2026 we met. And it was us, CalAm, Department of Fish and Wildlife, and the National Marine Services Fisheries Unit, and the State Water Resources Control Board. So now we'll talk about what's going to be, what we think the weather's going to be. So this is what you get through NOAA. They have a climate prediction center, and they'll put out these charts. So this one is for March, April, May, and it comes out in February. So it's kind of shifted 1 month from what we're talking about, but as you can see, it's below normal for precipitation. Yeah, you can go ahead, Sarah.
Is that the right one?
You can go forward one more. The next one I don't always show, but it's saying it's going to get hot over the next, which is why when we went into the next, and we were talking about it with the group, we said, I'm not super hopeful for it setting up another jet stream rainstorm systems coming through this area. It could happen. If it does happen, we will be ready. We will inject again. But with years like this, and this is just my own opinion, when I see fog show up so early in the spring, it kind of says to me it's going to stop raining. That's just kind of what I've seen working around here for so long. So next slide. This is what we came up with as a group. So the top across the table, you have the months. So April, May, June. And then we've divided into the different sources and also the different water projects. And so the water projects, obviously, the ASR project takes water out of the Carmel Valley aquifer, moves it over and puts it into the Seaside Groundwater Basin. And then Pure Water Monterey puts water into the Seaside Groundwater Basin, and then it's recovered. And so this is a chart that's showing what we think we may need or demand for the community and what we think we may need out of the Carmel Valley alluvial aquifer to support ASR. There's also something that's reflected in this table that's called one of the state board orders I referenced earlier in my presentation that's called the low flow regime. It's a state board order that says at a certain gauge at basically the bridge at Garland Park, if it goes below 20 cubic feet per second for more than 5 days, all of the upper valley wells must shut off. So we're thinking based on historic hydrology that that's probably going to happen in May. So the upper valley units and those wells will not be a source. So for the top line, that's why you see 0, 0 in May and June. We don't think they'll be available to serve water. So that means that the water needs to come out of the lower units. And CalAm is projecting 390, 375, and 360, wanting to get that out of their lower valley wells. And no ASR diversion if the climate is as forecast. So all the zeros are there, the next line, which gives us 465, 375, and 360 coming out of the valley at that point in time, which is good and bad because you want to try to get all of your water right out of it, the whole 3376, but you also don't want to pump a ton of water in the spring because that's the critical point that the fisheries groups are trying to protect. So this is kind of the rub in that conversation we're all trying to figure out. And as I said, now we move to the Seaside Groundwater Basin, the coastal sub areas. Pretty low for the native area, for the native groundwater 2020, and no proposed ASR recovery. 25 for Sand City desal. We'll see if we get there. Maybe half that will be made up then by coastal sub area pumping that was decided at that time in the group. And then the previous mentioned recovery for Pure Water Monterey, which is the 220, 435, and 470 out of the Seaside Basin, which translates to, we think based on historic records, that there'll be a demand in the system of 685, 810, and 830 for April, May, and June of 2026. So the next slide is just my recommendations. Is there's, oh, I'm sorry. This is talking about the satellite systems that the Seaside adjudication has set the limit to 0. We know that there's still Hidden Hills, which is pumping and not interconnected, where Ryan Ranch and Bishop have been. There is a plan to interconnect Hidden Hills, but there's also a mechanism for accounting at the water master that allows for substitution of underpumping in the coastal sub areas for overpumping in the Laguna Seca area, which is what we're referencing. And this is roughly about 300 acre feet a year that we're talking about. So we're talking about 25, 32, and 33 that are highlighted in this, in the little square there, that is going to be overpumping against the allocation of 0 for Laguna Seca. We all know it's going to happen, and there's a physical solution on the way, but it hasn't arrived yet. So I don't know, can you go back one slide, Sarah? And if there's any question on these numbers, I can answer them now, because the last slide is just to recommend this slide.
Any questions? I just had a question about the Sand City desal.
Correct.
This looked a little low to me. Is that what we usually see?
Do you want to take it, Dave, or I can take it?
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and take it. They, forever, since the plant came online, it's been treated for the quarterly water budget as 300 acre feet divided by the number of months in a year, so 25 every month. It has never and will likely never achieve 300 acre feet in a year. It's done 280, 260. We're waiting for permitting a new replacement intake well. So we've been kind of carrying it as a 200 acre foot supply. Its average has been closer to 185, 180 until we get the new well back. So at some point, they're going to have to come to grips with 25 is actually too high every month. But that's its history. So the well is in permitting with the Division of Drinking Water of the state, just down the street, but they have limited bandwidth. So,
Any other questions?
Yes. Are these numbers set that you cannot change them where you can, I hate to say it, force Cal-Am to take water out of the river? Can we change these numbers, or do you have to go through the whole group? Because you're starting, to me, my opinion, you need to start changing these numbers where we can start forcing Cal-Am to pump out of the river.
well, they're showing 1,105 acre feet over the quarter. And if they follow it up with the final quarter of the year, kind of in the same territory, 1,000 acre feet, then they'll be at about 3,000 for the year. So that's not shabby.
But you still have 76 left.
Well, they're never going to hit 3376 exactly, because they want to make sure they don't go over.
Well,
And
we'll see that, but I like to see it down into the hundreds instead of, 1,000 or over 500. Come on, we gotta be able to do something. Help me out.
Understood.
Any other questions?
So to Director Alban, your question is, this is a collaborative group, and I don't think that, if your question is, could it be used as an administrative enforcement, I don't think this group is set up that way. It would require something else.
Well, y'all need to start looking at it. Oh, I just got my calculator out.
100 acre feet below the target, below the maximum.
Yes,
I mean, that's within about 3% of the total. And that's cutting it pretty close. And so I think if you can,
well, cut it a little close. If they went over, you know, we gotta do better with enforcement. That's the bottom line. You just can't keep saying, okay, okay, okay.
Okay, Jonathan, you can continue.
Okay, so the staff recommendation would be for the board to adopt this quarterly water budget for the third quarter for water year 2026 for April through June of this year. Should you adopt this, the district will go and file the appropriate environmental permits with the county.
All right, do we have any public comments or input on this matter?
I see no raised hands.
Okay, so we're going to close public comments. Shall we, is there a motion to adopt?
I move approval of the quarterly report, quarterly supply budget.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Any opposed? No, none of them? Okay, the ayes have it. Item number 11. This is the development of a pilot citizens water panel for 2026. And is this you, Mike?
Yes, thank you. Trying to find my other note. Let me give a little background. I can tell you that right now is that we heard this at the public outreach in November. Keep looking for my information. Then we brought it to the board in January. We went back to the public outreach committee in February, and now we're back to the board in March. So we've had an opportunity to kind of rough it up a little bit, get some better direction from the board. And so the exhibit 11A is kind of the compromise, I guess, as to the input that we received from the board and trying to like listen to, hey, do we increase the size? Do we not increase the size? Who are we really trying to go to? And so this is kind of our best estimate as far as like this pilot project. So we know that we're just trying to get our feet wet and see how it goes. If it goes well, then we can kind of move on from there. And so we heard a lot of great comments from the directors, you know, about, you know, what do we want to do with transparency, this and that. But where we settled on was 12 members of the panel, up to 12 members. Each board of directors would appoint a person to this committee or this water panel. And then we would have up to 5 representatives from local stakeholders, whether they're from government affairs committees, things of that nature. And so what we're thinking is that we would give the board members till May the 10th to come up with their representative. And then after the board meeting, we'll start soliciting to the other stakeholders. And hopefully by May 15th, we'll have all of the participants in place. And then we'll move in the summer to try to set the meetings up, dates and things of that nature. So open to any suggestions or comments that you might have about trying to get this water panel kicked off. If we move it back to the public outreach committee, that would be, the next meeting is April 27th. So we'd like to see it move quicker if we could, just to kind of, you know, help see how this thing kicks off this year. So open for comments.
Anybody have any comments?
Question.
I will too.
You have a tentative list of local stakeholder organizations that you have in mind?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like MCAR, Chamber, Coalition of Businesses, hospitality. So we have different chambers, PG, Carmel, Monterey, that are in kind of the service area that the district encompasses.
Any other sort of?
The Carmel Valley Association has, well, I don't know, Marion, you can tell me now, but they've usually had a water subcommittee, people interested in resources, so might pull from there. There's the Carmel River Watershed Conservancy, so there are some organizations out there that have an interest in these topics that aren't just government affairs subcommittees.
Did you have another one in mind?
No, but a diversity of some diversity in those organizations would be probably a good thing.
Yeah.
George, did you have a question?
Rise to this level, and then also, you just mentioned maybe 8 or 9 potential organizations. How do you see, you know, informing them, and then what do they do? Apply, and then how's that process work? That's one thing. How does, you know, 3 chambers then come together for some reason? I just don't know. You know, it's experimental. So I can understand you don't have a precise kind of way of dealing with it. I mean, or an answer to my question, but how do you see it happening?
Well, obviously we'll kind of send out the same announcement at the same time. We're not going to be like, hey, you know, we're going to select one or the other. It's kind of like, in my opinion, it's first come, first serve. If they're interested in learning about the district, what we do, all of these different topics that are listed, I think they'd be interested in and get back to us quickly. Whether they meet or not, you know, we can wait and find out. But I think for us, we want to get going and like find out if this pilot's going to work. And if the need is out there for education, then maybe, you know, you can scale it up or make sure that those other organizations that wanted to come, or they, you know, will have the ability to come next time.
And I suppose even 7 of us here have nominations to make. We can nominate from a group that we think has been left out of the equation or something like that. Okay, I'm willing to play that by ear. I do have a question about 6-month experiment, pilot project, 3, meeting every other month. Do you want to meet that often? I thought we were talking about maybe meeting quarterly, but.
I just want, personally, I just want to get it to the finish line.
Yeah.
And so if we start in May, you know, you're finishing in November potentially. So I'd kind of like to see that squeezed. Just depend on, you know, what we want to see and if we can see it. You know, you'd like to see the fish ring facility when it's operational. So that's like late summer in the fall timeframe. And so that, you know, it kind of times out just right.
Okay, I mean, I just understand the timing of the whole thing and how the pieces come together.
Just to clarify that, because potential candidates will want to know how often would we meet? But do we have in mind quarterly eventually?
In the future or like for this one? For this session?
I don't. Going forward.
Going forward.
So.
I'd like,
You have in mind, like for. After this year.
okay, yeah.
So starting next year, do you have in mind quarterly or?
I could see us, yeah, moving them quarterly if we kind of get the dynamics lined up in a more timely manner. You know, we've kind of been nudging this along for 5 months now. If we have a formula that works, I could see us jumping right in, getting the nominations and moving into that quarterly space easily versus we're trying to condense it down this year.
I would suggest the program duration, say 2 or 3 meetings in the 6 months or something like that. Just so you don't pin it down, everybody gets excited about, well, every other month. I just thought, you know.
Sure.
Make it so there's a little more discretion option.
Anybody else?
Yes.
Have y'all decided if you want to Zoom it or not? So I can sit at home and watch and laugh instead of trying to get down here to see the aggravation. Are we gonna Zoom it or not? If it's a pilot, I like to see it Zoom. It's gonna be too much time or whatever, tell the public. I remember when you first started talking about that, we wanted to reach the public. And the only way I know you can reach the public is with those cameras up there so we can watch the people act out. So, y'all decide or what?
Let me take that under advisement from our professional Zoomer.
But she'll be working, I'd probably take a little bit, but I think it'd take a little bit of time, but,
Yeah, I understand.
I like to see it zoomed if possible, we're talking about reaching more people. We're packing a room with 20 or 30 people, now we can't do that, we're down to 15. Now, if you zoom it, it'll reach more people. So.
Well, and if I could just chime in too, I think we're gonna recruit people to participate, they should know whether it's gonna be Zoom or not. Or in person, they need to know that.
Well, that's,
I don't know how you explain it, either decide tonight, I would like us if we could decide tonight, whether Zoom is a possibility or is it all gonna be in person?
Are you referring to having them here, but the meeting would be televised?
Just like that.
Yeah.
They'll be here, but they can zoom in. Or they can pick it up when Sarah put it on in the loop or Ann put it in the loop, they can watch it.
So, and when you say they, you mean the public?
The public.
Okay.
But
But the committee would actually be here.
them in person versus, this is kind of that whole transparency thing that we're kind of walking about, we don't want it to be a Brown Act. We're okay with, potentially recording it for public consumption.
yes,
But, and I agree with George, we'll let people know in advance if this is gonna happen. Well, I need to research that a little bit, because
This is a way to kick it off, it's
Sure, yeah.
works. And then people know what they expect. You can nominate somebody out of your organization, really
Expect them to-
whoever they nominate, or no. Just need to be able to
And,
person.
and in the public outreach committee, we actually discussed having a board liaison
Mhm.
to be there on the panel. It's not on the panel, but just as an observer.
it's like to be able to watch the meeting. If the public's gonna be in here, I like to watch the public. Just like tonight, they're out there, we're in here. That committee is in here, I'm watching them from out there. So, they can be in person here, but I like the meeting to be Zoom, so everybody can see it.
So you'll check on the logistics of
Yeah,
that.
because, then it's like, we're gonna have 12, 15 people, and we're gonna have to look at the room set up to see if you can get everybody in a shot. So can we just advise, we're gonna research that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, are there any other board comments? Any public comments?
Yes, I have members of the public. Melody, when you're ready.
I'm wondering, two questions here. What is your definition of a stakeholder? I mean, I remember this from CalAm's Christmas letter, and the stakeholders had nothing to do with the 100,000 residents that pay the bill. So I'm wondering, you rattled off a lot of names that are all very small stakeholders compared to the residents. So I'm hoping there's going to be Land Watch, Public Water Now, Sustainable County, Monterey County, that actually represent the people that live here, not just the business interests. And my real question here too is like, what is this for? Can somebody explain the purpose of this? That's all. Thanks.
So my understanding is that that's what the board members are going to be selecting somebody from their neighborhood, from their district, which would be your public person. They're not going to be one of the stakeholders as far as the agencies are concerned. So we're going to be, each of us is going to select a neighbor to represent the neighbors. Do you want to kind of go over the basic objective of the panel?
Sure, so it's to provide citizens, ratepayers and stakeholders with a clear understanding of the district's policies, regulations and strategies for managing local water resources efficiently. I think we've done a great job in some of the outreach that we do on a regular basis, but this is kind of giving them a little deeper dive into some of these policies and the reasons why the district is doing the things that the district is doing. This is a little deeper dive.
And I believe it's going to help with public outreach. I think one of the goals that we discussed in the Public Outreach Committee when we talked about this was that this is going to give people more information. And those people are going to go out and tell their friends because it isn't a Brown Act committee. They go out, then when they conversation with their neighbors and their friends and on next door and in public and social media, they're going to say, oh, no, answer to that question because I sit on the citizens panel. Public outreach wants to work closely with the citizens panel to make sure that there's a connection and information gets out to the public about what's going on.
So that's the primary purpose, is a different form of public outreach.
I have Susan Schiavone. Susan, when you're ready.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, I wanted to also kind of ask about the stakeholders that were mentioned because the ones that were listed sounded mostly having to do with the business community. So I would like to see, you know, people in other organizations, even in education, be included in the possibility for stakeholders. And I get that the board's going to recommend some people from the community, and that's great, but I would just like to not see it get top heavy with special interests that have to do mainly with money making and business community. That's just my opinion. And then do you have goals and objectives laid out for this? I heard what the main thrust that Mr. McCulloch read, but is the committee itself going to be developing goals for itself, or is this going to be given to the committee for their action? Those were my questions. Thank you.
It's my understanding that this is going to be a panel, not necessarily a committee that makes recommendations to the board. This is a panel that is there for public information. I am sure that they will have meetings that are going to be informative. They may set their own goals about things that they want to know, information that they want to get. And of course, we will comply with those questions and those goals. Anything to add to that, Mike?
No, and I think that as Susan just mentioned, a lot of people don't know the different departments within the district. And I think this is an opportunity to kind of give them exposure to some of these other things that we do on a regular basis. And so, yeah, I agree. There could be, we'll ask them what they would like to see at the end of the day, like a pre and post test. But, we have a number of topics here that will take plenty of time and, to go through them specifically. There's a lot of information that can be disseminated in just a couple of these topics that we have here. Water demand and supply, advocacy, some of the collaborative projects that we've been involved with. There's a lot of information there that most people don't know about.
Any other public comments before we come back to the board?
Vice Chair Linder, I see no other raised hands.
Okay, George, did you have something?
Yeah. Potentially getting this wrong, but I want to speak a little bit toward our mayor, who was in a prior discussion on this subject several months ago. And he was feeling that the 152 committee had some good elements to it. And it's an outreach, it's an informative process, and it's a transparency issue with us. And why not engage in some kind of dialogue with the people who have, deeper interests in water than just surface issues. And so I think he was generally supportive of this kind of committee or panel, and I am too. So I just wanted to add that, and I don't think I'm misquoting, misrepresenting what the mayor originally supported.
Right, any other comments? All right, let's move this to a vote. Is there a motion to consider approving the development of the pilot citizens water panel?
And not to exceed $10,000 for.
$2,000.
I would move that motion. With the edits, like 2 or 3 meetings,
Mhm.
and in the budget.
I just like to know we're gonna zoom it.
They're gonna look into
Now,
it.
well, they're gonna look into it and you can give me an answer now, no. But if we're gonna zoom it, that's the big answer for the public.
So turn around, Alvin, and look at that screenshot right there.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 7 or 8 people that you're seeing. And so you're gonna have to double stack or something. We're gonna have to look into it.
Shape the room where you can get, it can be done, talk to the AMP people. So we can get all of it. I think you want more people to reach this.
Get smaller chairs.
Yeah.
More chair.
Elbow room.
More people to look at it. Now, if it ain't gonna be Zoom, let me know so I can get my way down here so I can't say nothing because I'm a board member. But I can get down here and see. And I know y'all gonna try me.
Can I well, it's late to raise a question, but since it's not a Brown Act committee and since the people would not be well informed. My experience of participating in this kind of informational seminar, sometimes you like to have a breakout group, like we would cluster people in 2 or 3 breakout groups and they'll develop questions or things like that. So because people might not be very sophisticated and might want to do some small group conversations, would that still be okay? Or does it need to be in the room? The entire thing.
Whichever way they want to run it.
Well, and remember that some of these things are going to be field trips. They're not going to be sitting here in the meeting.
Yeah,
So,
and you do have to keep in mind that the average person who doesn't run for office may be less comfortable with the baggage that comes along with it. In other words, they may speak more freely if it's not zoomed and it's not considered, a publicly viewable event in real time. I don't know. I'm not saying let's not do it. I think it's a compelling idea. We're much more better equipped to do things electronically now, but.
well, then it looks like you'll be coming down for these meetings.
Say again.
You'll be coming down for the meetings.
Yeah, I know that. I know that. I 52 committees. Yeah, I came down for them.
Chamber visits, they'll have both. I mean, they'll have people in the room and they'll have members via Zoom too. So I don't want to just open the door to that membership can do it from home, especially because there will be field trips.
Yeah.
But let us do some thinking on that.
Well, I'm not talking about, just to clear it up. If you're on a committee, it's like I'm a board member, I gotta be here. I'm not sitting up there saying, they can sit at home and talk to y'all through Zoom. No, Zoom's for me to watch it. Just like it's not a Brown Act, so they don't have to.
Or maybe there's an option just to video it so that it's available to be placed on like the website or YouTube channels. Yeah.
People can see it, more people can see it, that's my point. More people can see what is going on. I may be the only one that's looking at, will look at it. Well, I see all the committee meetings on Zoom and I can tune in to them and listen to them or look at them.
So let's go back to the vote. We're actually voting for the approval to develop the pilot citizens panel, not committee, panel. With suggested edits and the recommendation that we look at the aspects and the logistics of putting it via Zoom, televised, or however we want to.
Not my vote.
Right, so do we have a second? George has moved it.
Yeah, not include, I just don't like the word Zoom. I prefer televised or something like that, recording, without, because Zoom looks like it's two-way communication.
Yes.
We're looking at only one-way communication.
Right.
So you can see it, observe it, take notes, whatever.
So those edits, is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. And our favorite, item number 12. Our strategic goals.
You know, we do have presentation. Okay. You may recall on March 6th that we had a workshop at the Pearl Works down in Monterey. It was a nice setting. Waiting for Director Edwards to confirm it was a great setting, right?
You don't want me to quit. People might want to let you back in there.
But to review, you know, the role of the board in strategic planning is setting policy, provide direction for the future, and establish priorities for the district. It's to ensure that we operate within the law and remain transparent to our public. And giving your leadership team direction and holding us accountable. Very important. And then it's a chance for you to think a little more broadly about big issues and also how you involve the community. And I think you'll see a thread of community involvement and outreach through all of these. Next slide, Sarah. So the highest priority goals, which I believe during the course of the discussion was the front burner. I believe the back burner became medium tier priority and the side burner became ongoing, but the goals haven't changed from what you established during the meeting. What we've done here is we've added objectives to each of the goals. The language that you'll see on these slides is identical to the staff report exhibit, so nothing new. If you did have comments, we can just take those as they are. So goal number 1 was to seek modification of the cease and desist order, which involves a lot of engagement with the state. And then if engagement doesn't happen, exerting our rights as a citizen and keeping our public and local jurisdictions apprised of progress as they're trying to build housing and create jobs. Second goal, Sarah, is to implement the public ownership of the Monterey water system as directed by the voters a long time ago in November of 2018. And as Michael mentioned earlier, we do have a bench trial on bifurcated bench trial on the LAFCO issue, which would then be followed by the public right to take trial if we successfully thread the needle on the LAFCO issue. This is ongoing and there's a lot of work involved. We're just going through some of our discovery that we received information on as far back as October, and we're just wading through it now 5 months later. So it's there's a lot of work to do. The third goal, a little bit new, and in the under the auspices of protecting the resources that we've now put a lot of money into that are sitting in the Seaside Basin with pure water Monterey injection wells, with the ASR operation, with the high degree of storage, then I think it's worthwhile to collaborate with others, including the Seaside Water Master and other jurisdictions, on what are the requirements for protecting that asset. There's been a lot of talk about protective water levels, but it's not just about water and paying for water if you had water, but it's about infrastructure and trade-offs between capital and high-priced water, and where you can be most effective if you work to provide protective water levels. And frankly, some of the modeling that hasn't been thought about yet, which is if we're injecting surplus pure water Monterey water, does that have a direct impact on the proposed in-lieu recharge program of Cal-Am, which was supposed to come online after they build the desal plant? And ultimately, if you don't build the desal plant and you still have a recharge obligation, how do you meet that? And what role does early surplus water, as we're waiting for growth on the peninsula to catch up, have in serving as that in lieu recharge program. So there's a lot of moving parts on Seaside, but it warrants an elevated level of attention, which you agreed makes it a higher priority goal. In the medium list, go ahead, Sarah. We've got 4 goals. One was to implement the state policies related to conservation as a California way of life. There's a whole plethora of these. You've heard the term urban water management plan. This is our first time in a 5-year cycle to be producing an urban water management plan because we are now a wholesaler. We currently have legislation will be heard in committee the first week of April on enforcement of non-functional turf and a whole variety of other things, including annual reporting of available supply and demand. So there's just with our growing role, as well as the growing legislation and our traditional roles, there's a lot more work to do there. Next one, Sarah.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
The annual supply and demand assessment that's required for the urban water management, is that just a record keeping of the current use, or is this something?
It's something a little bit different, and it's required July 1st of every year. And it's done annually, whereas an urban water management plan is done every 5 years. And so it's just a spot check of your most recent year, either calendar or water year, on how much was your demand, what was your available supply, and was supply more than 100% of demand. And so what the state's looking for are systems that are getting precariously close to being out of kilter. Cal-Am reports on its own behalf, and they've been including stored ASR water. They've not been including pure water Monterey storage. And so in our role as a wholesaler, we would be reporting some things that are a little bit different than what Cal-Am would be reporting. So we'll report all of the pure water Monterey water, both delivered and stored. We'll report on ASR, and we will report on the reclamation project, which serves the Del Monte Forest users, which Cal-Am doesn't even think about, but the state is interested in recycled water being used. And so there's just some reporting levels where we won't be as comprehensive as Cal-Am is supposed to be, but they're also not as comprehensive as the state has wanted because they're only counting what goes in their pipes. So it's just, it'll be the same obligation, but a different level of reporting.
Sounds like it would be useful data.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, and when we filed our application for a revision to the cease and desist order, we included Cal-Am's most recent, I think, 4 years worth of that reporting, because it painted a different picture than what perhaps you might have seen in testimony at the PUC or elsewhere, because they typically have not included storage in any of the analysis, but storage is real water. So goal area number 5 is what we talked about at the outset, optimizing ASR. You know, we've got the capability of, let's call it 18 acre feet per day of injection, and we've been averaging around 13. So it's that opportunity cost that's hurting us right now. And you may recall a year and a half ago, we talked about siting our own third injection well, perhaps on the existing Santa Margarita site. The most sensible solution would be to just restore ASR well number 4 to either a bidirectional well or an injection only well. So we need to find ways to actually make that happen. And it may be during the current rate case, because we've testified to this issue, that one of the things we may request of the judge in the rate case would be to direct Cal-Am to restore the asset to be used in the manner in which it was designed. And if that doesn't happen, then we could file a complaint. Best thing that would happen would be Callan would just say, oh yeah, you're right, we need to do this, let's just do this. But so we haven't picked a path to get there yet, but we definitely need to bring Callan along with us on this one. Next one. So goal number 6 was to update and prioritize district rules and regs. That was Stephanie this evening. And as I said, it'll happen 2 to 3 more times this year. She didn't really talk about it, but the Rule 160 changes were to conform every May, we do a determination of, do we have enough water to make it through the last part of the water year, the last 5 months of the water year, and a full following water year. And that's kind of the drought trigger. And that drought trigger then translates into drought response. And that part is in our urban water management plan, but it's based on the days where we only counted water underneath the Carmel River and in the Seaside Basin and added the two together. Well, where we're at today, we've got Pure Water Monterey, we've got Sand City desal, we've got the little Malpaso piece of 86 acre feet. So all of those sources need now to be brought in and contemplated as, oh, what's our supply situation? So that'll be every May, and then every October, you adopt an annual water budget that then John comes back every quarter with polishing up those numbers. And so they're all interrelated. When we petitioned the state to modify the cease and desist order, one of the triggers that we had suggested to them was count up all the sources of supply, compare it to the most recent year demand, kind of what's being done right now through the water efficiency reporting, look at the two, and if you're getting above 85% of availability, then you need to look to another level, which is how fast are we growing? It's like, when would we burst through the line? And so that rule change was to be consistent with what we pitched to the state as a trigger for monitoring the CDO. So it's just time to bring all these things together, and you understood that when we met at the workshop. And then next one is goal number 7, which is advanced Los Padres Dam alternatives. You may recall that there was a very lengthy report that took a very lengthy time to get there. And now there's a series of follow-up reporting that's been going on. So we just, at this point, we want to stay involved, be part of the team, be part of the technical review. But we don't have a plan to build things or tear things down at this point. It's just to continue to evolve it going forward. And then the next 2 are the ongoing goals, the side burner issues. And paramount on that is always protecting and enhancing the financial health of the district. And I would venture to guess that this is very similar to a goal that we had for last year with all the same objectives. And then finally, goal number 9 is to provide ratepayer advocacy through rate cases, through other forms of public outreach, through monitoring the conditions on the coastal development permit for desal, and so forth. And that's pretty much it. I thought the district board did a very good job. You did your job very well, and it was a productive morning.
Any questions from the board?
Yes, through the chair, thank you. Goal number 1, number 2. When are we going to decide that? Or I would like to see it agendized for next month to discuss.
Yeah, that's the concept of a writ or some other form of legal action, because
how long are we going to wait? And I like for it to be agendized and discussed.
Yeah.
To send that letter forward to State Water Board with our options on it. We'll discuss our options and figure out which one we want to do. The sooner the better. So I know it'll be taken up in chair and vice chair meeting.
Any other comment?
Comment.
Sorry.
I can't remember the details. I'm still interested in more training opportunities for the board, and maybe the staff. And I kind of didn't know where to make the comments in relation to this. But I would like to see us have at least a bullet point to say, well, you said, oh, that's Padres Dam. I didn't know whether there was a place in like goal 4 about implementing conservation and way of life. I just didn't know where to put it, but I do want to suggest that increased training opportunities for board and staff or something, or accelerate or plan for or something that's like that. I'd just like to see it in. I didn't know where.
And I think we've talked about this before in other board meetings about getting regular reports on the status of these goals.
Yep.
Whether it's monthly or quarterly, you know, or anytime there's a change or development.
Yeah, we have talked about that.
Yeah.
One of our peer agencies used to report on their strategic planning goals every month. Not a great idea. You don't make a lot of progress in 1 month. So I would say no more frequently than quarterly.
Yeah.
Would you prefer every 6 months? Is that?
Well, we've been doing that. And so if that's not feeling like it's filling the need, then I guess we got to go to quarterly.
Any other comments from the board? Okay, let's move it to the public. Sarah?
I see no raised hands.
All right. So let's call for a vote, a motion. I'm sorry, wait, we have a raised hand?
Yes.
Okay, let's go to Susan.
Susan, when you're ready.
Hi, I just wanted to congratulate all of you. You did a really, really good job on this. And I was particularly affectionate about optimizing ASR and also number 9, ratepayer advocacy. But overall, this is a really, really good job you did. You worked hard and you've come up with some really good, wonderful goals. Thank you very much for all your work.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I see no other raised hands.
All right, so we're considering the adoption of the district's strategic goals and objectives for 2026. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Item 13.
Let me back up.
Yeah, we're gonna back up.
Did the motion include more training? Or how did you feel about that?
I took it. Yeah, we noted it. We also noted it wasn't on your index card at the workshop. So.
But Mr. Chair, training for the board, that's not really a strategic goal for the district. That'd be more of a board directive that can come back at any time. So, you know, pulling it into the district organizational goals doesn't quite seem appropriate, but we can note it.
It doesn't have to be in the goals. I just think that's a subject matter that we ought to keep in mind.
Agreed.
All right, let's move on to item 13, the approval of additional budget for legal services.
Yeah. As you can imagine, when there's a flurry of activity that involves the courts and briefing, that there's going to be a flurry of invoices that come in afterwards. And so we've used up our authorization for 2 different law firms. The first being Shute Mahali. That's Edward Schexnader. If you remember some of the discussion, he's a very good attorney, a very good firm. They are handling our LAFCO issues, which means for the eminent domain case, they argued our motion for summary adjudication, wrote it, briefed it, and argued it. And then for the LAFCO appeal, they're also the primary attorney, and they're also working with us to get amicus briefs on the LAFCO appeal. So they've been very busy lately, and they've run through our last authorization. And then the other firm is Richards, Watson, Cushon, or RWG Law. And they're handling the joint appeal of the Coastal Commission lawsuit. So remember, the Superior Court ruled that the Coastal Commission did not act improperly in authorizing the local development permit. He has developed a brief for the appeal. That one is shared a third with the city of Marina and Marina Coast Water District. But we only put away or authorized 25,000. We've now exceeded that. I don't believe there's as much work there to do, especially in the remaining fiscal year, which is why we've only asked for about 40,000 of incremental authorization. So the recommendation is written a little incorrectly, not asking you to approve an additional budget, but it's an additional authorization of 130,000 for Shoot Mahali and 40,000 for RWG Law for the respective areas of practice under their existing engagement letters.
To the chair, if I may, so you're asking for 170,000?
Yeah, total. And I don't think I put it correctly at the top of the.
No, it's 100,000.
Yeah.
And it had me confused. You were asking for 100,000 into 170, and I know you can count better than I can. So, okay.
Any questions from the board?
No, I just think Shoot Mahali's doing a terrific job. I've attended a couple of them, and as a layman, I'm impressed. But I also hear the Cal-Am version, and I'm still very impressed with Shoot Mahali.
I agree. Well, I support the request.
Any public comments? Tom?
Good evening, Tom Raleigh, Vice President MPT. The appeal of the Coastal Commission thing is like throwing something against the wall. You guys ought to just drop that, save yourself 40,000. So anyway, that's my suggestion.
Thank you, Tom.
I thought we weren't paying that.
Anybody else?
Mr. Linder, I see no other raised hands.
All right, so we can, any other questions? We can put it to a vote. Is there a motion to approve the additional budget of 170,000?
I so move.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it.
Thank you.
And we're on to the informational items. Any comments from the board or the public on that? See none. I do believe we're done. This night, look, I get to beat something with this. This meeting is adjourned. There you go.
Good job.